Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, JD, and Brad.
Welcome, everybody, to The Other Side of the Glass, the Facebook Live series from us, the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
And I'm JD Dameron.
And before I introduce our guest this evening, I want to remind you guys to share this live feed. Want as many of you all to share as you can. Really excited about the guest that we have on tonight. And I think this is going to be especially, I think the youth of our audience are really going to enjoy this one. And so our guest tonight is Byron Embry. Byron is a leadership expert, international keynote speaker, and author. Mr. Embry himself grew up in Richmond, Kentucky, and was drafted in 1995 by the Oakland Athletics. In his senior year of high school, and again by the Atlanta Braves in 1996, while attending Indian Hills Community College in Iowa. His 10-plus years playing in professional baseball gave him the tools and confidence to begin a whole new career in motivational speaking on leadership and personal development to a variety of audiences, to those not only in sports, but business as well. Byron, thanks for joining us, man.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
So where are you hanging out right now? I see you're in your vehicle.
Yeah. I got all the kids here, so it's kind of loud in the house. Here in Richmond, Kentucky, the Bluegrass, 40475. I got a chance to take a couple days off. The work life with obviously still working in baseball, doing part-time work with the Boston Red Sox. Then my full-time job at Slammers Baseball, one of the largest club organizations in the country. So it's just a whole lot. So we're taking the kids fishing to down in Florida, and then I got to cut it short. I got to fly them back and coach a tournament in Atlanta. One of my coaches can't be there, so I'm going to fill in. And then, but yeah, man, just trying to soak up some sun and some humidity, which we don't have in Colorado, in the Denver area at all. And then, get back to work. So I'm just really glad to be here.
What kind of fish you doing down in Florida, man? Y'all bass fishing? You going to sea fish?
No, we're doing. So my 10-year-old is not an athlete. He wants to be a fisherman. And me teaching fishing is like the dad playing catch with his kid who never played at all, right? So I'm going to take him with an expert to Jacksonville to go deep sea fishing. So we're going to have a great time there and catch some fish, eat some seafood, and just talk about growing up. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, sounds like a good time.
So how many kids do you have now, B? 4 or 5?
I've got 4. I've got 2 girls, 16 and 14. Then I've got 2 boys, 10 and 9, who don't have athletic bone in their body. I mean, I'll tell you what, those boys would not catch the coronavirus if you sneeze right on them, right? So that's not their gig. But they're boys, and I love it. And being dad is just an awesome thing to be, man. It really is. It's just an awesome job, and obviously the best job.
Well, we've been competing since we were little kids, and I've got 4 kids too. So I'm gonna have another one. I'm gonna have to beat you.
Hey, best luck with that. You go right ahead.
Yeah, he'll let you have that one, Brad.
Yeah, that's right.
So one reason that we wanted to have Byron on is we've had a number of motivational speakers and athletes and people that have helped in the development of youth. And Byron is not only somebody that's a friend of mine, was also somebody that took me under his wing and mentored me as a young man. And I've always had a ton of respect for you because of, I was a freshman when you were a senior, and you were in the heyday of your high school career. You were getting ready to make decisions about going to college or go pro. And then, some little scrawny freshman comes in that doesn't have a right to be there, but's getting a little bit of attention. And I think the natural reaction would be to say, okay, little fellow, you sit over there in the corner of the dugout and you wait your turn. You did the complete opposite. And not only gave me encouragement, but spent, I don't know how many hours we spent together in a cage, just talking baseball, just throwing.
Right.
And that was something that really impacted me,
Awesome.
not just as far as my development on the field, but how I interacted with people and have invested in other people since then. So, I don't think that's been 20 years ago, and I don't think I've ever said thanks, but that's something that has really made a difference.
No, well, that's awesome. You know, Brad, that's what happened to me. We're Madison Central, big baseball program. I made the team as a freshman, and I'm the only freshman there. Well, Kurt Lyons, who ended up being drafted by Cincinnati, Jason Irwin, excellent player, played at Eastern, they treated me like I was one of the bunch. And them saying hello to me in the hallway was a big deal. Well, they would take me home from practice. They would play catch up. So they did a lot for me that most freshmen didn't get. So I knew when I had the opportunity, you go find the freshman who's got a chance and you treat him like one of your own, right? And it's just one of those things where, we talked about Don Richardson and his legacy. Well, part of the legacy as a player at Madison Central High School was passing down the teaching and the mentoring and the encouragement from generation to generation. And I think that's what's missing in today's culture. Everybody's worried about themselves, right? And I've just found it's been my belief that when you do something for somebody who cannot afford to pay you back, the value of that, the equity of that is, insurmountable. So thank you for saying that.
So Eric Mosley already had a question, man. I know Eric. So you always said you was with the Red Sox, right? So
I'm in scouting, yes.
So you're scouting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So scouting is different because I'm a player development guy, and I'm big into taking the kid who throws 100 or doesn't throw a strike and teaching him how to pitch. Well, scouting is a little more difficult because I got to go try to find guys who are like that and try to pair him up to, kind of determine what would he be at the major league level? Would he ever get there? If he gets there, how long would he stay? How much is he worth? What is he going to do there? Which is kind of challenging. And so I'm just a part-time guy. They get my second opinion on things. And, but my real heart is developing, right? And I think Brad can speak to this too. Growing up in Richmond, we just played. Some of the teaching and the technique, we were never taught that. We were just athletes. And you look at it now, had we been taught the things that are being taught today, we would have been so much farther ahead of the game. And so, again, I want to create opportunities and things for other kids that we simply didn't have.
So can I ask you, what's that life like being a scout? I mean, are you just traveling around to different high schools or junior college, whatever it may be, and just looking at talent?
Yeah. So as a part-time guy, there's a guy that does it full-time, and I help him. My job is when he sends a guy, I say, hey, what do you think about this? Or how good is this guy? Or can you see him in Boston? How signable is he? So they find the guy, and I just help evaluate as far as the second opinion. Now, I train pitchers worldwide. So every now and then I'll get a guy that'll show up, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty good. And the funny thing is there are so many 15 and 16-year-old guys who throw 95. It's ridiculous. So he's 6'6", left-handed, he's 95 miles, and he's 16 years old. And I got to determine, is he going to throw harder? Has he met his ceiling already? Is he going to get hurt? Because they've got to invest. They're looking at investing millions of dollars in a guy, and we have to know everything. Character is – I can't tell you how many times I've gotten up or other scouts have gotten up and walked out of the ballpark from a kid who was throwing 98 because of his makeup, because of him throwing his glove, or because mom is making excuses for him in the stands. We hear all that. And when mom's doing everything for you and you throw a glove, you will never pitch in Boston. Or probably, none of the other 28, 30 cities either. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, it's my job is to reevaluate the talent. We evaluate it. Here's what we think. What do you think? What does he need? Is it worth it? We kind of take it from there. So, yeah, I love it.
Cool, man.
I'm sure the scouting has changed a lot, especially in the last 10 years. just because of technology. Because
yes.
when we were playing, if somebody wanted to come watch you, they had to get on a bus or a plane and physically come and watch you. And now, just like what we're doing right here, we're at 4 different locations having a conversation like we're face to face. So, is there technology like this being used where you can Skype in and watch your kid live, or are you still going in person?
Yeah, it's funny you bring it up, Brad, because with COVID, obviously, the NCAA has a dead period until August 31st. So when I'm dealing with Tennessee or Vanderbilt or Louisville or Texas or Florida State, they have to do everything virtually. So the crazy part is they have to offer scholarships on kids they've never seen. And to offer a 4-year scholarship to a kid you've never seen is scary. So they have to take all the metrics. For example, when I talk about metrics, let's talk about pitching itself. Before, we just looked at velocity, the actual radar gun. Now, that's pretty much irrelevant. We don't want to know how fast the ball is traveling. I want to know how fast it's spinning. Because on average, a baseball loses about 1 mile per hour every 7 feet that it travels. But the faster the spin, the less speed it loses. That's why you can have 2 guys throwing 90 miles an hour. 190 gets to home plate quicker than the other one because it's spinning faster. So spin rate has a greater factor on swing and miss than the actual velocity does. So don't tell me how hard he's throwing. I want to know how fast the ball's spinning. And that's one of the factors that we have to look at to determine how good the fastball really is. So, and we do that through technology, through Rapsodo, through Doppler radar, through TrackMan, and it tells us everything that the baseball does aerodynamically. And we can compare that to the Major League average.
Oh, wow.
We've already got another question in from the live feed. It says, Kenny Taggart wants to know, do you spend more time at high school field scouting or college?
I spend more time developing high school, but more time scouting in college, right? Because, and I'm a player development guy. I want to go develop the kid. I eventually have to go scout. Right? I want to go. There's nothing more rewarding, guys, than teaching a kid a curveball, like a real one that he didn't have before, and watching his eyes light up. Because when you teach a kid something and it creates confidence, what he thinks he's able to do and what he can't, it's a game changer. Because confidence breeds success. I mean, I can't say that enough. When a kid truly believes, he will go out and perform at a level he's never performed before. And when you get that, you create momentum, confidence and momentum, right? And that's, man, again, I can go on all day about that. But it's teaching the breaking ball or explaining to him what he does well. You know, everybody talks about what a kid can't do. But what about what he can do? And does he know what he can do? And what he can do, does he know why it's effective? Right? So I had Dawson Hall, left-hander from Madison Central this afternoon, and really good pitcher, left-hander, 6'4". He's going to be a senior. We had to talk about what he does that makes him so successful. Because when you know what's good and why it's good, you'll stick with it. Listen, if you suck at it, don't do it. Right? Let's find out what elements you're good at, and let's build those, right? And let's build equity in those. And it kind of grows from there.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about – I'm sorry. Go ahead, JD.
Not everybody's got a question, but you kind of talked about character a minute ago and developing these kids. Has there ever been a case where you had a kid that had the great character and could do, some things right and, maybe he hasn't physically matured yet and, he got to college and he really started blossoming, then everybody was on him. Like,
Man, listen, that's why I love my job. That right there. He's the kid that nobody saw coming. He's the kid that really didn't even see himself coming.
Right.
He got stronger. Because, guys, I'll tell you this. The difference between age 19 and 20 is like 4 years. Because that's where testosterone peaks, right? A big jump in testosterone. That's when the velocity jumps a whole 5 miles an hour. Next thing you know, he's blowing guys' doors off, right? And it's because he stuck with it. It was there. It was in him. It just hadn't came out yet. And when it comes out, it becomes a radical game changer, right? And then people say, well, I didn't see it coming in high school. Oh, my gosh, I missed him. You didn't miss him. It was a right call at the time, but in scouting, I got to see it already there.
Right.
He's got to show me something that tells me it's going to come later on, right? And there's things that we look at that will determine if it's going to come on or not. There are a lot of guys on TV who are not very good at Justin Verlander, you would never look at him twice. Steven Strasburg, you would never look at him twice. Billy Wagner, you'd have forgot all about him. None of those guys were very good going into college, but they came out of there being special. And again, that's what I love about this job. So yes, that happens, and everybody gets excited when it does happen.
Go ahead, Jimmy Don.
Well, no, I just wanted to ask about your career. And I know when I was reading your bio there, it said that you were drafted by the A's and then later you were drafted by the Braves. And I know Brad has talked to me a little bit about you, and he had mentioned that you had been spring training a couple times with the Braves. And I was wondering, was that during like the Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine heyday?
Yeah.
Was that, because the Braves
Yeah.
was my team. We had like three channels back in the day, and one of them was PBS, and I could watch the Braves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so when I got drafted by Atlanta, it was like, what? Really? And I got into rookie ball, and I had Rafael Furcal at shortstop, who nobody knew who that was at the time. Marcus Giles, second base, no one knew who that was at the time. Troy Cameron. So we're doing all this, and I'm throwing fastballs by people. And I'm thinking, it's not supposed to happen. Well, a lot of those kids were with wooden bats who hadn't, first-year pro ball. So it was easy. But the next year, I was humbled. And so there's always a saying, guys, in baseball, the two types of players, the humble and those who are about to be. Right? And I remember when I struggled, John Smoltz was so good to me. I was an A-ball guy. He was like, hey, nobody in baseball gets to the big leagues without a struggle. Right? It's those who fight through it. It's those who really believe the sun will come up tomorrow, right? It's those that continue to grind. And that stayed with me for years. And I was able just to kind of grind my way through it. Now, Greg Max was a different guy. I remember walking into spring training, just, A-ball guy, and Greg Maddux is riding the exercise bike in his jockstrap only. That's it. That's all he had on was jockstrap. And so I had to get on the bike after Greg Maddux, and I didn't want to do it. But then again, it's Greg Maddux, so I did it.
Maybe you'll rub off, huh?
Hey, exactly right. Hey, I'll take what I can get.
I remember you called and told me about that, and because at the time I think Maddox had just signed the biggest contract in the history of baseball at the time,
Sure.
right? I think he was the highest paid player in baseball.
Yeah.
And you said, I think it was like Andrew Jones, Chipper Jones, whoever, people were coming in wearing ties and slacks and all this stuff, and said the richest guy in baseball came in wearing cutoff jean shorts that were different lengths, tank top.
Bad dog.
Yeah.
So that year in spring training, he wanted to see how many Burger King Whopper wrappers he could get into the back of his rental car. His locker looked like a third grader that was unorganized. He had paper football, paper airplane, dip cups, fishing rods on. I mean, he was just, but he was Mad Dog. One of the most competitive individuals I've ever been around. I mean, he was an animal. I mean, that guy. So there's a lot of those lessons, like from those Braves teams, and then I got released. A couple years after that, that's when steroids got big. Well, I couldn't understand why everybody was throwing so hard. Well, everybody had gotten into steroids. I knew nothing about it. And so I fought through independent league ball. It was when I started teaching pitching to kids, I was teaching myself. And I'm a big believer that if you really want to learn something, teach it. And the more I taught, the better I got. So next thing you know, you look up, the radar gun's 102. Now you're going to the major league camp with the Royals. And the major league levels, obviously, that's just different, right? I mean, you're dealing with some of the best in the world. I remember 2005 when I had signed with the Royals. They sent me right to major league camp. And the first guy that embraced me was Jose Lima, right? And he was amazing. And, of course, in spring training, those major league hitters, they're not ready yet, right? And here's Vladimir Guerrero, here's Barry Bonds, and I'm beating these guys all until everybody got their timing down. And when they got their timing down, I needed an L screen, right? I mean, they were hitting absolute. I was backing up third base like it was my job. So, and so they sent me down to AAA, and I'm bummed. Finally, I get a phone call. And this is a true story. I love telling this story. I get a phone call from the manager or from the GM, Allard Bears, say, hey, do you have a suit? I was like, yeah, I got a suit. He goes, all right, you need to be at the airport, 7 a.m. You're going with the big club to Houston for the exhibition game, right? Major league trip now. Got my suit on, going to the airport. We fly out of there. We go to the hotel, big league club, all this, exhibition game. I'm not supposed to pitch. Well, I go to my hotel room, turn the television on, and they announced the starting pitcher for the Astros, Roger Clemens. I almost cried because Roger Clemens, that's what I patterned my game after, right? And that's the dude, right? And Roger Clemens is pitching in a ball game, and I'm not only going to the game, I'm in it, right? I'm not going to pitch, but I'm in the bullpen. Right. So we get to the ballpark, and I'm out there. I'm watching Biggio and Bagwell hit balls out of the stadium. We go out for the national anthem, and I'm to stand and look at the flag, but you couldn't help Roger Clemens. I mean, he was just, the shoulders as wide as a door. So I'm in the bullpen. I'm chilling. I'm watching Roger Clemens. We go up 3-1. The bullpen phone rings in the 7th. It's Tony Pena, the manager, who's now the first base coach for the Yankees. He says if the game stays the same, Embry has the 9th. I'm like, no, he don't. Hey, call Tony back. Tell him leave a message. Tell him Byron ain't here, right? So I get up in the bullpen, and I'm throwing balls everywhere. It's like a snowball fight. I'm throwing balls every which way. Can't find the catcher. My heart's beating. Here we go. It's the third out. I'm trying to run on the field, and I can't open the bullpen door. Look, we on TV. My mom's watching this back in Kentucky. I can't open the bullpen door. So finally they open it. Here I come running out. And when you have adrenaline, home plate looks like it's 2 feet away, like you reach out and touch it, right? And I gave up a hard single and almost got out of the jam. Well, get 2 quick outs, and I walk a guy, and then Jason Lane comes to the plate. Behind him, MVP Lance Berkman. Ooh. There's 40,000 people in the stands. And Devin Bennett was there that night. He's in the stands. And first pitch to Jason Lane, he hits a rocket. Like off the bat, I knew it was gone. Place went crazy. I didn't turn around. It just so happened he hit it to the deepest part of the park. And my left fielder did a circus catch, fell down, and the ball found his glove at the end of the game. All right? And it's cool, but to look at Roger Clemens, him looking at me, to look at his spike imprints on the mound, it was like holy ground. All right? And so it's just experiences like that, man, that just you look back on and you just try to prepare kids for. So that's what I love about my job.
We asked this question last week, so I'm gonna ask you. We asked David Jones who was the craziest person that he ever played with, and I know you've been on a number of teams. Who was the craziest person that you were ever in the dugout with?
Ichiro Suzuki. That dude was crazy. So we caught a taxi to the airport or taxi to the ballpark once, and all of a sudden he had no money and knew no English. All of a sudden, right? So I'm footing the bill for the taxi, right? So we're in Vegas, exhibition game. I'm with the I'm playing with the Mariners, and this dude walked in the clubhouse with pants that should have been painted on. I mean, he's cutting off my circulation wearing those pants, right? And crazy from the standpoint of he was just really, really out there. But not only was Ichiro crazy, the second one was probably Zach Greinke. Zach is different. That is a very, very different bird, right? Zach's the guy I've always got along with, and he will stretch way apart from the team. If the team's doing it, he ain't doing it, right? But different strokes, different folks, all right? But they're two great competitors. They just had weird and quirky things that they like to do. But probably the most – I'll tell you this, the best guy I ever played with, the guy that was probably the best to me in all camps would have to be Felix Hernandez. awesome. And he threw so hard. I mean, it was like a different sound when he hit the mitt, right? And he was big into teaching. He wanted you to learn the craft, right? He was big on accountability. And it's those types of guys that I've always gravitated toward. Yeah.
Jimmy's wife, Amy's asking a question on here. Says, how often do you mess up picking a player? Like where you thought he was going to be something special?
Oh, boy. Oh. Hey, proudly, I can say I miss a lot. And like anyone humble in this game, you'll say you're wrong a lot. Sometimes you're wrong to your benefit, right? Sometimes you take a player and he's better than what you even expected.
Right.
But then there's those guys that you thought was going to be the next coming. Shouldn't even play JV ball, right? So yeah, you do, because this game is a gamble. Think of it as being a weatherman, right? Think of like you've got factors, you've got elements that you use to build a forecast for tomorrow. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. This guy has a 30% chance of being a prospect, right? He's got a 10% chance of going to the big leagues, or there's a 100% chance he's going to the big. You know what I mean? So it's all about probability and guessing using the elements and the factors that are laid in play, in place. So I'm wrong a lot. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
I can take credit for that one. That was Amy.
Okay, yeah.
So, try to talk about like a little bit what you do outside of scouting, man, like with the teaching, the motivational speaking, the keynote speaking.
Yeah. So I got into that. They just kind of used baseball as kind of a platform, and it was something that communicating to the public was something that I just held very dear. It was a skill I learned in college, right? And I took it with me. And what I do as a speaker, because this is the truth, I hate boring presenters. There's nothing worse than sitting there listening to somebody boring and dry. So I have to speak to myself as an audience member as I'm on stage and bringing you with me on a journey. And what I like to do really, JD, is like I'm big on using what you know to explain what you don't know. For example, something that I like doing with kids is called the 3 little pig syndrome, all right? Because every kid in America is one of 3. Either you build with hay, right? You're very, very talented, but you're lazy. You build with stick. You're talented, but you're very insecure. Or you're the grinder, the one who likes to build with brick. But no matter what you build out of, there is a wolf that's coming to huff and puff and blow down what took you so long to build, right? We call them haters, right? And I like to define haters as people that are people that are so insecure by who they are that they have to, basically assassinate and alienate and destroy who you are, right? They want to hijack your self-esteem while assassinating your joy. And they're everywhere. Because if you don't have a wolf, then you're not doing enough. Right? So you got to have those, right? If when you become very, very successful, you're going to have them. And that's how I measure success, is how many people try to stop you. That's how you know you're successful, right? And kids got to hear that. Because whether the wolf lives at home, whether he's at school, whether he's on your team, wherever, how do we build a lifestyle? How do we build a structure that can withstand the huffing and puffing of the wolf? Right?
Good stuff.
Yeah. So that's what I do. So I'll speak at a lot of youth events. I'll speak at a lot of corporate events. Haven't done a whole lot of sports stuff. Ironically, I'd love to, but I don't get a chance to. But I'm just big on, my big message is having people be formally introduced to themselves, right? Having America, basically developing a closer out of people, right? Where you're the closer at work, the closer at school, the person that gets the ball when everything's on the line. When the game's on the line, you becoming the game changer, right? Hey, and sometimes we fail. Sometimes we blow the save. Guess what? The sun will come up tomorrow. We're going to make the adjustments. We're going to get back at them. And you got to think that way, all right? I mean, blown saves happen in real life. We've all blown them, right? But we've all picked up the saves, right? But how do we know who we are to build a consistent repertoire to where we have more successes than failures? That's it. And that's been really my core message.
I'm ready to run, man. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, I love it, man. And really it holds me accountable too. Just being a dad, right?
Yeah.
As a father, I want to be the man I want my girls to marry. I got to be better than that man, and I want to be the man that I want my boys to become. That's tough, right? Especially if you love your kids and you want to be that man, that's going to take a lot of accountability. And I've always defined accountability as the level of integrity towards your responsibility, right? Accountability is not taking responsibility for the wrong, but it's owning up, to everything else. Basically, it's not always doing the right thing, but it's making the wrong right. So
Extreme ownership.
It's extreme ownership. Exactly right. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Byron, I wanted to touch back on something. You might have said this earlier, but was there a point, you're going through the majors, you're doing your thing. Was there like a defining moment where you were like, man, I really love teaching kids how to pitch? Because you said if you want to know, you want to hone your craft, teach it.
Yes, that's right.
So was there a defining moment for you where you were like, man, this is really an avenue I'd like to go down?
Yeah. That took place probably in 2005 when I signed with the Royals. I was teaching every offseason, and the kids were getting it. They were getting it. And finally, I was having issues with a breaking ball one day. I'm throwing bullpen, and I had a lesson coming in right after I was done, and I'm having an issue with it. This no exaggeration. I had a 12-year-old tell me, Coach, you're not getting enough extension. Aha! So the student became the teacher to the teacher, right? And when my 12-year-old was able to pick that up and help me with it, I knew I was doing what I needed to be doing, right? And from that point on, Jimmy was like, I want to teach my kids to be their own pitching coach. Know yourself so well, you can make adjustments right there on the fly, right? So the timing, the tempo, the rhythm of everything, right? And that was really, really encouraging to me that he was able to pick that out. So that's when I knew this is what I wanted to do.
That's cool.
Hey, and listen, it starts with baseball, but most of these kids are not going to go pro in baseball, but they will go pro in something. So some of the lessons you learn in baseball, being on time, playing hard. That's all I ask. You be on time, you play hard, and you make adjustments when you need to make them. No matter what line of professionalism you're in, you got to do those three things. Right? And I just hope they take that with them.
We talked briefly before the show, and we were talking about kind of the exposure that we got growing up in Central Kentucky, right? Because like for me, my freshman year, I would come in and close the games when you were pitching. Did. Well, there was already, so the scouts were in the stands. And then in the summer, I'm playing on a traveling team with Austin Kearns and guys like that. So the scouts were there. So all I had to do is show up and have a few good games, and you were going to get the exposure.
Right.
Well, we're in Eastern Kentucky where you don't have that same kind of presence as far as scouts and those types of things. So what do you say to the middle school, high school kids now that have some talent in areas like we're in here? How do they get exposure?
Video. If they just shoot video, shoot as much video as possible. And I tell parents this all the time. Make sure you hold your camera horizontal, not vertical, because it's going to be viewed on a widescreen. But start shooting video and posting it on social media, Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook. Posting it. You would not believe how many kids end up at really big schools from places no one knew about, all because somebody posted a video. Right? So they don't have to come see you. You just put yourself in their lap when you put the video out there. Right? You put the video on there, and then you tag Perfect Game, you tag Prep Baseball Report. You just start tagging everybody. People will find you. Because that way they can Google you, and that video is going to pop up. So technology has really helped with recruiting come a long, long way. So in Eastern Kentucky, heck, if you're on Mars, shoot a video and post it. That's the best way to be discovered.
How do you feel about the travel ball now that the young kids are getting in? Do you think it's helpful? Do you think it hurts when you're taking 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds and putting them on travel teams, and they're playing 9 months out of the year. I'm not a big fan myself, but I wanted to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, I like Little League at that age, right? And I'll explain why. When you play travel ball, that age, the focus is so much on winning then, they will never learn how to win later, right? I've watched bad techniques. I've watched bad base running. I've watched terrible two-strike approach. I've watched some bad baseball because that's what they thought they needed to do to go win, right? You're stealing bases. You're stealing third with 2 outs. You're down by 8, really? Well, guess what happens when he's 16? He tries that. And Scott Brown at Vanderbilt, Will Coggin at Kentucky, Eric Snyder at Louisville, Tony Vitello, Tennessee, Nate Thompson, Arkansas, they get up and walk out. Couldn't believe you did that. You didn't learn the game. So I like for the game to be played in its most simplistic form. You got to remember something. They don't teach calculus in the 3rd grade. They don't, right? For a reason. So when you take a bunch of kids and you run travel ball, you're playing 90 games a year, those kids will burn out. Everybody says, well, no, my kid loves the game. When he's 14, he will not want to play anymore because the amount of stress and the amount of structure and the amount of everything else he had to do when he was 9 would not survive to the age of 14, right? So, thankfully, we played 20 games a year at 9. That's all I needed. Now, as I got older, yes, you play more games. But really, to travel and do all that and play that amount of baseball, it just doesn't help anybody. I mean, there's no, in my mind, Brad, there's no positive to that. There's not, right? So you got 9-year-olds out there throwing 100 innings. They're throwing 90 pitches a game, right? So the arm fully doesn't develop. And you want to know how come he doesn't throw any harder. He may not have gotten hurt, but he doesn't throw any harder because of the stress and the pull and all the dynamics of the throw itself took a toll on him when he was 10. So, yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of travel baseball and the especially for the magnitude in which it's done at that age.
And I also think it takes away some of the things that you look forward to as you move up from middle school to high school or whatever. And I bet you can relate to this, but just like the one thing that was on my mind from the time that I was 10 years old, and I told my dad, I said, I want to play at Central when I'm a freshman, which, was a big deal for us in the 90s, right?
Huge.
And that red jacket, that was it for me. You know what I mean? When I got to put on that red jacket, I thought I have arrived. And I would go to the football games and I'd see you guys wearing them, and I thought I'm going to get that jacket. Well, now you're going as 8 or 9 years old. You've got 10 different uniforms. You've got fancy bat, all this different stuff. You're traveling everywhere. So then when you get to the point where you can actually get on a bus or travel, I don't think it means as much.
It doesn't. When you're hopping on flights at 9 and you're playing in Florida and then you fly to Dallas, well, that senior trip to Florida when you're in high school, been there, done that, right? So you're right. And you're on a bus at 16. You flew when you were 9. And it does. It loses its mystique, And I think, too, parents want what's best for their kids. I do the same. But if you think that's what's best for your kid, you don't understand the game yet. And I think eventually baseball will come to the point where they realize we're doing, a greater disservice to our kids.
So is there a time, Byron, because there's a lot of people around here. You'll see AAU basketball. You'll see the travel teams with baseball. Is there a time in their development, like, say, in high school, when you're trying to maybe get noticed by a college or something like that you would recommend maybe trying like a travel team or something like that? Is there a point in the career where that maybe makes sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes total sense when you become in the 9th grade because you're now what we consider a recruitable athlete. Okay, because the NCAA, they have different recruiting rules for the 8th grader from the freshman. 8th grader, technically you're not recruitable. Your freshman year, you are. So that's when you go out there and you want to get as much exposure as possible while you're still developing. And here's the thing about baseball. They recruit as early as the 7th grade. Girls softball, they can't do that anymore because they're recruiting 11-year-olds. Remember when University of Florida committed a 6th grader? I couldn't believe it, but that's what they did. In baseball, they don't do that anymore. I mean, they do it, but we don't quite go that early. So what happens, these universities get the best athletes and they commit them early. They want to see him as freshmen. The problem is you recruit a kid, he's a freshman. He commits to Texas A&M as a freshman. All through high school, he's committed to A&M. He gets to A&M, he's there his freshman fall. He's cut. It happens.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of these kids say yes to the proposal to somebody they never kissed. Right? They're saying yes to the proposal, and you're quote unquote married for 3 months, now divorced, in baseball terms. Right? Because we never took the time to grow. We got excited to go put on Twitter, I committed to A&M. You tell all the girls at school, I'm going to A&M. You know, you got A&M everything. Well, A&M is not as bought in as you thought they were, because they're bringing in 8 of you.
Right.
And they're going to choose one of you. So, you know what I tell people? It's like going shopping and you buy 3 pairs of jeans, take them all home. Whatever fits the best is what you're going to keep. You're going to return the other 2. That is the NCAA in recruiting, because there is no free agency in college sports. So you got to bring everybody in,
Right.
see what you like, and then send the rest home.
I didn't know that. I mean, honestly, didn't know that would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah. So you got 11.7 scholarships. You don't have a whole lot. So you bring all these kids in, and they think they're coming in. They committed as a freshman, sophomore, or whatever. Well, wait a minute. I thought I was the only catcher. Well, you brought in 4 more. Heck, you had 3 when I got here. Well, guess what? Somebody's going to junior college.
Right.
Somebody's going home, right? And it's just one of those things that it's always been a part of the mix. Yeah. So in recruiting, which is where I spend most of my time for my kids, I got to know who you're recruiting, who you're bringing in, and what you do. Because the last thing you want to do is put a kid in that kind of situation where he's going to be cut his freshman ball.
So I had a question, man, about coaching. Like, how important is it, and how much have you seen the game change in the last 20 years since 15 years since you've been getting involved with the teaching with these young kids?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen has it got better, worse, and why either way?
Both. I feel like that we do more coaching now than we did. I mean, coaches are in the game. They're in there. They're invested. They're going on. But we're teaching less. Coaching is when I tell you what to do. Teaching is when I explain how and why. Okay? Coaching is, hey, on this you go there, this you go there. But as a teacher, you got to explain why they're doing that. We're coaching more, teaching less. And I'm a big believer in the why. Because if I explain the why and you buy into my why, I never have to remind you. Because it makes so much sense to you. You know, I'm a big believer in kids that are 14 to 18 years old. They're going to make, they are going to make errors. They're going to drop balls. Ball's going to go between legs. They're going to strike out. They're going to do all that stuff. It doesn't need a reaction from a coach. You don't need to say anything.
Right.
I don't say anything. Now, when it comes to attitude or effort, then you can get in his lunch a little bit, because you can control that, right? Attitude and effort are the only 2 things that will cause me to blow a gasket, and it should be. But hey, we're gonna lose the ball game because he can catch a pop up. We're gonna lose the ball game because he walked everybody. Hey, you pat him on the tail, you encourage him to go back out there, because it's too easy to quit. You know, and he's 16, right? He knows it was bad. You know, so yeah, and I guess that's my thing. We want to coach. Well, explain to him why he walked everybody. Explain what happened on the flat ball, what we should do next time, right? Explain cutoff and relay. So explain it over and over and over again to where they can't forget it. Yep. So again, I think we coach more than teach.
I coach high school football, and I don't know if baseball is like this or not, but we do a lot of film. Do you guys do is baseball?
Doing more of it now. Huh? Doing more of it now, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And that's been my best teaching tool, man. Is getting the game film and getting there and bring it down, like giving up ground for linebacker, whatever. But they can see it, and I didn't know if baseball was.
Yeah. Baseball does it more for technique when they're young. Hey, look at your foot, look at your hips. We do it more technique. But when they get to college, they look at like strategic. They start studying film of other hitters and other teams. In the pro game, it's a lot of video of your opponent and how we break it down, what we're going to do to attack it, and everything else. For sure, do a lot of that.
Brad, do you have a question?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I saw that. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask because I want to know. I got a couple of questions, but I'm not joking when I say like the Braves are my all-time favorite team. You know, I mean, I cheer for the Reds now, but during that, I mean, I'm not joking. When I was a kid, shut up, JD. When I was a kid, we literally had 3 channels. TBS was one of them, and the Braves played every day. And I used to watch it with my grandfather, and they sucked. Yep. I mean, they were awful. That was the day, you know, you got the Dale Murphy generation. Everybody, you know, loved Dale Murphy, Bob Horner, Rafael Ramirez, all those guys.
Yeah.
So then you get to the time where they're good, and you've got, you know, probably the greatest pitching staff, in my opinion, of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
Smoltz, Max, and Glavine. And I want to know, like, specifically about those guys. Like, were you around them and watched them pitch? Like, could they just throw it wherever they wanted? Like, Maddox looked like he could put it wherever he wanted. So did Glavine. Like, just wherever they wanted to throw it, that's where it went.
Yeah, so they practice that. Those guys are big on execution. So put it like this. In basketball terms, if it didn't swish, it didn't count. If the catcher had to move, it didn't count. And if the catcher was moving too much, you ain't pitching for the Braves. That ain't going to happen, right? So hitting is really, really difficult to do. Round ball, round bat. It becomes impossible when the pitcher has GPS on the pitch. That's what they did. And then they would throw a secondary pitch that looked just like the fastball. You ain't going to hit that. I watched Greg Max change up from behind. The ball disappeared. Now, here's what's funny. I saw Greg Maddux come down to pitch an A-ball game in spring training. Came down to A-ball, and they wore him out. Because 19, 20-year-old kids, they don't know. They just see ball, hit it. Greg Maddux, I'm swinging. I don't care what the pitch is. I don't have a plan. I'm just swinging whatever's close. They wore him out. And it goes to show you those guys are so particular. They're only successful against the best. If you're terrible, you probably beat them. Baseball's crazy, right? But they, I mean, you know, and they know they're to kind of get work in. But when they came playoff time, man, they had your number dialed. And they would dare you get in the box. Tommy Glavine took pride in getting the on-deck hitter out before he got in the box. He did. Aroldis Chapman, his job is to throw as much fear into the on-deck hitter as possible, and he does. Right? That's what it's about. It's about being the biggest, meanest, and the most competitive. And if push comes to shove, you're probably going to get thrown at and hit. Right? Fastball, breaking ball, curveball, hit by pitch. So you pick.
So I got to ask about this then, man, because I've been watching all these videos online because there's no sports going on. Mm-hmm. A lot of these baseball clips, a lot of these, bench clearings and stuff like that. Like, did you ever get involved in any of that, man?
Oh, man, I love them. I can't lie. So being a closer, you got to start a lot of them, right? It's a situation where I sometimes it's to get my teammates' attention. I may accuse you stealing signs at second base, or I may accuse you doing something. And then I'm going to throw a ball behind you, right? Or I'm going to flat out hit you just to send a message, right? And nobody wants to get punked, right? So they'll jaw back, and here we go, all right? But a lot of times my beanball wars were to protect one of my teammates who got hit. If I thought you got hit on purpose, I'm going to get somebody. Somebody's wearing it tonight. Right, and that's the game, and you respect that guy. You respect that pitcher, because nobody expects the pitcher who is afraid of rough feathers or the bench clearing brawl. He's the last guy out there. He's just kind of, man. No, you got to get in it for your guys, right? And it's no real intent. It's just to let all your boys know that you're the boy, right? You know what I mean? So, and the thing about video, you can pull the video and figure out who was sitting in the back, who wasn't. So I've been fined a whole lot of money for bench clears, right? Things I didn't even start, just because you're the closer. You're the leader, so you got to take charge and let everybody know what's up. Right. So those are good. The biggest things about the fights I tell young guys is watch your feet. Everybody's got spikes on. Everybody's stomping. You'll get your feet tore up.
Is that right?
But they're fun. I mean, they are. You know,
I mean, they're fun to watch too. I ain't gonna lie.
We were having a conversation about this on one of our episodes some months ago, and I don't know if I really crystallized it what I was saying. You can probably elaborate on this, but I was telling the guys, the baseball, there's so much going on that you don't actually see. It's more of a chess match. And I said, if somebody gets hit, that might not be because something that happened in that game. That's like when your wife goes back in the Rolodex for something that happened 3 months ago. It might have been because somebody came in with their spike tie two series ago.
Yep, that's right. And so you look at the Houston Astros and the whole sign stealing thing. Well, Aroldis Chapman is going to get El Tuve at one point. At some point, he's going to wear it. It may not be the first series. It may be the second series. It's going to be the first time he gets a chance to hit him when there's no consequence. Maybe they got a 5-run lead. A tie ball game, you're not going to do it. Right. So sometimes you have to wait a little bit to get that chance. Or sometimes you prefer to do it at home, right? So you got to wait. Sometimes you have to wait, an entire year to do it. Right, season's over. Spring training, I'm going to wear him out. You know what I mean?
That is the worst. I can't imagine on that level, with people throwing 100, because I've been on both sides of that. I've hit a number of people, and I've also went up knowing that I was going to get hit. And now you talk about that is the most terrifying thing you'll ever do, because you can't get punked out. You got to stand there. You got to go up there and take it, and you know you're getting ready to catch one in the rib cage.
The best is when you think you're going to get hit and you don't. I mean, you're bracing for it. You took 2 fastballs. Now he throws a breaking ball, you're out.
So, is anybody happier than the Astros that this season hasn't started yet?
Oh, man, because the spring training, they were getting drilled. Spring, they were getting wore out. I mean, they needed body armor to get in the box.
I think we had a bet
all season long. If we get back to when we get back to baseball, they're still going to get it.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Do you think that is exclusive to the Astros, or do you think they're just the only team that got caught?
Only team that got caught. If you want the truth, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have any evidence to say that we did it, but I know we paid the price for it. We lost our second-round pick because of it. But when you know what's coming, hitting is so much easier. And I think everybody in baseball knew, based on the swing Altuve took against Chapman, he knew it was coming. You're not going to hit a slider like – guy throws 100, you're not going to hit a slider like that, right? And so all the evidence and all the stuff, it's cheating. It just put a black eye on baseball, and they're going to answer for it, So, yeah, man. But if it comes out that anyone else got caught, they're going to be wearing it too, right? It's just kind of one of those things.
So, JD, I think, Byron knows Brad pretty well. We've got to ask, are there any good stories that you can tell about?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
like freshman Brad, nerdy little Brad.
So I went to a high power. If minor league baseball had a junior college, it would be Indian Hills where I went. Right. I said, hey, listen, we got this lefty at my high school who you got to get. He's a high school sophomore. I'm a high school freshman, and so they waited to recruit him. My man Brad goes out. He comes back. He says, yeah, I like the baseball, but there's only one problem. I was like, what? There are no girls. Where are the girls? No girls? He goes, yeah, I can't go there. Right? Oh, my gosh. Yeah, right. So when he said that, I'm like, you're right. I guess I didn't, I totally didn't notice. So yeah, when he said no girls, that's the first time I ever heard that out of anybody. But
I've seen
he did bail me out. I tell you what he did do. He did bail me out. My first game, my senior year, it's packed with scouts, Bryan Station. I went out and had a great game, but I threw my glove, like we tell everybody not to, when I came out of the game. We bring in a freshman left-hander, Brad Broadus, to close out a game. There's 20 scouts in the stands. There's like 20. These 20 scouts watched a freshman carve up Brian tastes like a turkey. Right? So he made me look good. Now, had that gone sideways, the throwing the glove ordeal would have been magnified.
Right.
But because he did his job, my throwing the glove wasn't that big of a deal. So I'll give it to him there.
Now, I've seen all these letters he's had, from all these colleges, and I told him I think he's made all that up. So Brad could actually play.
He could really play. I mean, we didn't use freshmen. I mean, a freshman on the varsity, no, that wasn't happening. But when you throw like that, break a ball like that, you're left-handed, yeah, come on. And I promise he was fearless. Nobody told him he was a freshman. He didn't get the memo, right? Yeah. He thought he'd been there for years, and he acted like it, right? And that's what I love about him.
That's cool. He will not brag on himself at all.
He's trying to boost me up here. What happened was, B's what are you, about 6'3"?
Uh-huh.
So, he came in throwing the heat, and then it just messed people up being left-handed. So this little scrawny kid comes out there, and when you're used to swinging it at 90 plus, and then somebody comes in there about 10, 15 miles an hour early, or throwing it slower, it just made me look good. So I got to ride on his coattails there.
Whatever it was, it worked. Whatever it was.
So JD, we're getting closer to the end, and I'm feeling lucky.
Brad, I'm just telling you right now.
What is? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm tired of all this good talk about Brad.
I know, right? Well, we're getting close to the end, so
Brad's my boy. I'm messing around.
I'm feeling lucky. After David Jones,
bro,
I'm feeling lucky,
bro.
Huh?
You think you trying to put your 2-win streak together?
I'm trying to put two together. So ask the man the question.
All right, man, Byron, this is important stuff right here.
Okay.
All right, like Jimmy Don and Brad got a little bit of a rift between them now because Brad sided with me. Jimmy Don's been butthurt about it. So I'm not gonna let you know who's who right now. But if you're watching the TV and you got Little Mermaid on one channel and Aladdin on the other, which one you watching, bro?
Little Mermaid, no doubt.
Oh my God!
That's a 2-week win streak.
Little Mermaid,
bro. The interview's over, boy.
I had no idea why, but I'm going Little Mermaid.
I'll tell you why. Why, JD?
Because Ariel.
You gotta love them redheads, baby.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yes, sir. Well, guys, we got any more questions for Brian? We'll let him get out of here. Nope. All right, dude, man, thank you so much for coming on. That's been a blast.
Likewise, guys. Definitely thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was cool. So, guys, if you're, watching this, share it, comment, do all those things. And, thank Byron for coming on with us. And Byron, do you have any social media or anything that you promote, for your motivational speaking or your...
Yeah, just check me out at just at Byron Embry on Twitter for sure.
Cool. Man, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. And guys, if you're watching, of course, I don't know if we haven't worked out. I'll be going out of town this this coming week for vacation, and we may do just a best of show Sunday. I don't know yet. We may actually do a show with me from Florida. But, of course, as always, you can check us out, our regular podcast on iTunes, Spotify. Of course, we launched from the Podbean app. The YouTube channel, go there and subscribe. We're trying to build up that subscription base right now. And as we always end the show, from myself, from JD, from Brad, and today, Byron, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us, guys.